My brothers, dear brothers and sisters, the Lord, the Lord, the Lord. I'm here as the man who's here to educate you. My dear brothers and sisters, this is Professor R. This is the man's guide, a man's guide to success. Today, on a man's guide to success, we're going to talk about some things that I see out here in this universe. Okay, I shared that because this universe, as men, we get in our way. But let me shed some light on some things. This, comment, subscribe, like. Now, let's talk about man and culture in our people. Let's start with us as men, black men, African men. What's the difference? Okay, one difference I notice is that African men and black men in general, we have likes and we have dislikes. But let's start it off. First thing I noticed in our culture for American black men is that most of the time we're separated. We're separated because of our thinking. Now, the African men in Africa, they're together. Their tribes stay together. If you notice, we're separated by our minds. They're together because they stay together because their minds are stronger than ours. You may not like what I'm about to say, but the Lord showed me this. Their American black man is always having a different mindset because we always thinking above the next brother. You gotta remember, we're black men. We're supposed to be a unit, soldiers. That's what we're born to do. But the African man is always in a brotherhood. They're always in groups, figuring out ways to help each other. Another thing that I saw. Another thing that I noticed about African American men, we're always, our language is different. We speak different to each other. African American men speak the same language. They're always on the same page, understanding the same things as the next African American man. You may disagree, you may agree, but if you see it in culture. Okay, another thing that I see is that their language, they understand each other, but our language is unknown. Because of the way we think, is that why our language is different. This is why, as a black man and as brothers, we should understand each other's culture, our language. This is what separates us. Another thing that I notice about African culture, they run, hunt, and they eat in tribes. They eat together as a family unit. The black African American man eat too, but we eat at separate times. We can eat with our families, but the difference is we divide sometimes, we separate from our families because of our hearts and how we were raised. This is why we're separated. Another thing, African American men culturally, they produce. They produce as far as going out, getting things, food, all that stuff. African American men do too. But the difference is we culturally try to unite. We unite only because of what we see out there. And this is what's making us different. African American men acknowledge each other. Black American, African American men, they divide and conquer because they believe that they can divide and conquer other ways. But see, African American men, they acknowledge each other and what they do. This is what we're supposed to do. Another thing that I see in 20 different black American men, we generational, we're cursed because how we grew up financially. The African American man is generationally wealthy because they think about finances. This is what's making them strong in their mindset as far as finance, because they believe that finances from the country, because this is how they grew up. They grew up with a rich culture. Our culture over here in African Black American men, with generational curse, because we spending on things that is not helping our budgeting ourselves. Another thing that I see African American culture, African American culture, they bring together their minds are they're culturally humble. But us, we're we're exposed because we're open to other things instead of figuring out how we are blinded by society, by the next man. See, we look at the next man, then we get blinded about what he have. But the African, they come together and figure out a plan to help the next brother be lifted up. The next thing about African American culture, they're dignified. They understand what it means to be a culture. They're dignified. They get each other. They understand each other. But our culture, we are destroyed in our hearts, in our mind, in our bodies, health-wise. They believe in health, taking care of their bodies, medicine, health. But us, we are destroyed because we put things in our bodies that we shouldn't. And this is why we're not able to move on, because our health deteriorates because of what we put in our bodies. Another thing in African culture, they're godly. They love God, they praise and worship God. But in our culture, we are spiritually destroyed because we don't read about what we need to know. We understand it, but we don't talk about it enough. But the African men, they understand it. The next thing, culturally, they hunt by nature. They hunt for their food. They go out and they work to get their food. Us, we hunt by words. We say it, but we don't go get it. And that's what keeping us separated from the love that the Lord has, I found, give us a mind to hunt. But they hunt and they survive off of that, fruits and vegetables. What else? They have a great cultural, they distinguish who they are. They're very distinguished and they think of how they can enrich their people. On the other side of us, African American men, we're less, not manly, but we're less, dignified financially. We don't gain, so that's what makes us look less like less men because of it, less manly. African American culture, they work to help their family. We work to be self-independent, and this is what separates us from them. They work to help their family. We work to be independent, and this is what separates us from our family. And last but not least, they're more into the land. They're more purified. We're less purified because of the things we put in our bodies. And the reason why I say that, because if you look at Deuteronomy 32 and 20, I said 32, 28. For void us. Void is like void for counsel. We don't get enough counsel. We void a counsel, void of counsel. We get less counsel. But their culture is more counsel. They counsel each other. They counsel family. This is why they're more spiritual. They believe in spirits as a group, as a culture. That's why they're not culturally dead. What helps to understand each other. That's why they're not spiritually separated. So I just wanted to lay down those rules so you guys can understand the difference between African men in Africa and us as American African men over here, black men. Now, culturally, our people are spiritually dead, separated because of we don't read about the Lord enough. We don't understand. We don't study enough. We don't share with each other. We don't grow as a people because this is why we're separated, divided, and conquered by other cultures, because we don't talk with each other about the Lord. We don't sit down talking about how we can benefit from it. We don't sit there. But African culture, they talk about it. They're more spiritual. They go to church. They more together than we are spiritually. This is why they're able to encourage and uplift us, because they spiritually they are more engaged in the Lord. They get it. Us, we're spiritually dead and separated because we know it, but we don't share with our culture. We don't try to uplift one another. So this is why we're separated. And another thing, in our people, we got to remember, we got to uplift, we got to help, we got to really understand each other. And this is why we're spiritually dead as a people, because people see us and they stereotype us, but we don't know how to handle that. So we get quiet. We don't show them how intelligent we are. But African culture, they show their intelligence, they show their spirituality, they know how to run businesses. They stick together. Our people are coming together, but we get separated once we have what we have. So we mostly depend on independence. African, like our culture and African American men depend on the independence. They depend on being independent instead of being culturally together. This is why we're divided and we get conquered. Just so you guys know, we have to learn to work on that because it's important. We as a people must understand this. This is why as a people we don't understand each other, because we're not spiritually confident, because we don't read our word, we don't pray, we don't study, and that's why the Lord is separated from our culture. The light, the lampstand has went out, but in the African culture, the lampstand is still there. The Lord is with that culture, and this is why we don't grow overall as a culture. That's why we're not together. That's why we get divided and conquered, because we always trying to be independent from each other. This is why families are not together. This is why our culture is not growing. That's why the other culture over here in America, they outnumber us and they stay together in groups and they put it within their families. Us, this is why our generational is happening, because we don't share it amongst our people. We think about being independent, and this is why we have the generational. Because of that, if we start applying ourselves and helping our communities by reinvesting in groups, we will grow as a people. There's something to look at. And then our sisters will look at us differently in their heads and in their bodies. This is another segment with Professor R, brought to you by A Man's Guide to Success. You guys stay tuned. I'll have more to teach you in another video. Continue to comment, like, and subscribe. Stay blessed. Have a nice day.